in honor of the 40th year anniversary of the 1977 blackout. The 1977 blackout, although it only lasted one night, was definitely a shit-hit-the-fan event. Hello, my name is Francesca. I'll be standing in for Julie today. Julie is off getting a beauty treatment, and we're all hoping it works. I would like to recommend a Netflix show, American Experience, The Blackout. There was poverty, a heat wave, and a lightning strike hit the Con Ed power grid. This caused cascading power outages across New York City. The backup lines couldn't handle the demand. Communications were down, and within 2 hours, businesses were being destroyed. There was rampant looting and fear in the city because Son of Sam was still on the loose. That night, there were 1,000 major fires. In 1965, there was also a blackout. The city was rich, and there was lots of free stuff. Free libraries, free after-school programs. When the blackout happened, people had parties. They threw block parties and barbecues. People gracefully handled the inconvenience of not having power. Free college? There was a joke that 9 months after the blackout, there was a spike in the birth rate. Instead of mass unrest, the blackout became a big party.
And a source of humor.
By 1977, New York City was on the verge of bankruptcy. President Ford refused to bail New York City out. Libraries were closed and free after-school programs were shut down. There were austerity measures. There was a sense of desperation in the cities. Poverty was overwhelming. The majority of the looters didn't have air conditioning on any day. The power going out just lit the tinderbox that was waiting for a spark. And during this heat wave, the power going out was just the last straw. In 1977, there wasn't much the police could do to stop them. There are currently 8.5 million people in New York City, and about 13,600 police officers. How likely is it that the cops could stop mass looting now? That's 16 cops for every 10,000 people. How many bad guys does it take to completely outnumber the police? Say 2% of the population goes batshit crazy. That's about 170,000 people. And there's only 13,600 cops to control them, if all the cops show up for work that day. Keep in mind that 1 in 5 people, or 20% of the U.S. population, suffers from mental illness. Maybe most mentally ill people are
Harmless. But how many psychiatrists give out their home addresses and home phone numbers?
You know what happens when the SNAP system goes down? Chaos. It's supposed to be a social safety net. In America, 10% of the white kids are living below the poverty line. 32% of black kids are living below the poverty threshold. They call this economic disadvantage inequity instead of inequality, which is used more like discrimination, as in discrimination in the hiring and treatment of people. Last year, there were many riots in the black communities. We were demonstrating against the inequality in how blacks have been treated by law enforcement. We know that some of the riots were encouraged by powerful players, but they struck while the iron was hot. The tinderbox was set, and any little spark would have set those cities on fire. We have unequal water systems, and Flint's water was contaminated with lead. Flintians didn't have access to clean water like people in other big cities. Aging infrastructure, corruption, and mismanagement came together to form a deadly storm. The water company is demanding payment now from the general public. If you're not familiar with the case, the water company was so broke that it decided to get cheaper water from the river. The water from the river was more acidic and caused corrosion in the pipes. The aging pipes released lead into the water supply. During the crisis, the water company's customers refused to pay. The point is, desperate people who feel they've been treated unfairly do violent things. What happens if the water company turns off the water of all those people that refuse to pay? Here's a quote from mlive.com, a news story about Flint. I can unequivocally state that the drinking water in Flint is safe, as defined by the EPA's copper and lead rule, said attorney Richard S. Kuhl, an assistant attorney general who is representing the state. Lawson called Kuhl's addendum, as defined by the copper and lead rule, an interesting dodge. Kuhl then restated, unfiltered tap water that came from the Flint water supply is safe to drink, but added that no matter where your water comes from or how well its treatment, there is still some risk of contamination. And on another note of another tinderbox that the world has to worry about, I recommend you read Breitbart's recent story on North Korea potentially being ready to deliver an EMP. In the news article about North Korea, please take note of who's being quoted, and that he says that the missile tests by North Korea might not actually be failures after all. The media is selling them as failures. The height that the bombs were detonated in North Korea is a perfect height for detonating an EMP. If Kim Jong-un was able to detonate an EMP over the United States, blackouts would ensue. Are we prepared for the fact that we have severe financial inequality in the United States? We also have an extreme dependence on the grid. So much so that when even Twitter goes down, people start to panic. Think about how every single thing you do from the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to bed has to do with electric power. Most of us, myself included, are not prepared for the outcome that might happen. Francesca out. This Washington Times article says, Kim Jong-un has been making many threats lately about striking the U.S. mainland and turning America into a ball of fire. The executive director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who also sits on a congressional committee regarding the issue, warns that North Korea could already be planning a satellite-borne EMP attack, which could kill millions of North Americans. All electronic capability would be instantly destroyed. This would mean no food production, no computers, no water, no energy. Millions of Americans would starve. And they got their news from, it looks like they sourced The Independent. But where the quotes actually came from was a radio interview that was broadcast in New York, I believe. Millions of Americans would starve. Some people think, oh, well, if that were to happen, there was just nothing, I wouldn't want to live if millions of people were to die off. I think some of us might have a stronger will to survive than that. Maybe our children are still here and we don't want our children to starve to death. I think I'd want to survive it. I think we can rebuild. I just think that there's a threat right now and people need to start taking it seriously. There's a lot of people who have videos on preparing for disasters. I have a few. I'm not going to say mine are the greatest, but they're definitely entertaining. And just be aware. Be alert, and if bad stuff happens, get to your safe place. I'm not saying that everybody needs to have a nuclear bunker or Faraday cages around all of our electronics. I don't think that's realistic, but I do think it's realistic to learn a few skills. Know how to filter some water. Know how to protect yourself against radiation. Have radiation pills available for your family. For $7.50, you can get enough pills to protect your loved one for a week until you have time to get away from the radiation. I don't know that anyone has a good excuse not to have pills. They sell them on the internet. Dr. Pry's website is called Family Security Matters. False reassurances have been given to the American public by the media that North Korea has not demonstrated its ability that it can miniaturize a nuclear warhead. or build a re-entry vehicle for an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of penetrating the atmosphere to blast a U.S. city. Kim Jong-un has been photographed posing with what appears to be a genuine miniaturized nuclear warhead. North Korea does have two classes of ICBMs, the Road Mobile KN-08 and KN-14, which both appear to be equipped with sophisticated re-entry vehicles. In 1977, the power is only out for 24 hours. What happens when it's out for a week?
Bad stuff.
There was a sense of
Keep in mind, 1 in 5 people is batshit crazy.
Not me.
Another tinderbox ready to explode in the U.S. Or over the U.S.
That's according to the 2015 sexist. That's according to the 2015 census records. You won't be seeing me drinking Flint water anytime soon. I'll be drinking out of the Berkey, thank you very much.
That's the Environmental Protection Agency. To those of you in Rio Linda.
So my take on this is that there's not nothing that we can do. Preventing starvation